The air in those early meetings often felt thin, like the pressurized surface of a hostile ocean. I remember a specific presentation, my proposal dismissed with a casual wave, a laugh. Too niche, too deep, as if my ideas were some strange, bioluminescent creature from the Marianas Trench, utterly irrelevant to their sunlit, shallow waters. They preferred the bright, glittering schools. I was the anglerfish, unseen in the dark, with a tiny, flickering lure no one bothered to notice, let alone understand. That was the inciting violation, being cast aside not for incompetence, but for daring to be fundamentally different, for seeing value in what they considered the void. They thrived on the superficial, blinding light of conventional thinking, celebrating visibility over insight. But what they saw as an abyss, I began to see as a sanctuary. That quiet darkness, where pressure built and light was earned, held a power they couldn't fathom. And in that depth, away from the clamor, I found my true strength, preparing to make my own light. The initial shock passed, leaving not a void, but a profound, almost sacred stillness. For years, I had internalized the world's casual judgments, accepting I was perhaps too quiet, too focused, lacking the conventional sparkle they seemed to value. I'd even absorbed the quiet label of having an anglerfish quality, fascinating in its niche, they'd imply, but not built for the mainstream spotlight or broad appeal. That perception, once a source of deep insecurity, now hardened into a quiet resolve. This wasn't fury or retribution, it was precision, proving the depth over superficial shine. The hurt didn't disappear, but transmuted into an unwavering clarity of purpose. I remembered the prestigious industry leadership program, one I was undeniably qualified for, yet passed over for someone more marketable, less singular. They said I lacked the broad relatability. What they saw as a flaw, I now recognized as my greatest, quietest strength. This wasn't revenge, it was a redefinition, a strategic realignment. The surface world, for all its clamor and perceived opportunities, suddenly felt shallow and unsatisfying. I recognized that my particular gifts, my quiet focus, my meticulous nature, the way I could dissect problems others found overwhelming, were not designed for crowded waters. Most people sought the sunlit shallows, chasing trends and competing for diminishing returns. But I saw an undeniable advantage in the deep, in what others considered the abyss of the market. My unique anglerfish quality wasn't about blending in. It was about generating my own light where darkness reigned. I consciously decided to lean into an underserved niche, a complex legal area others deemed too obscure, too risky. Here, my methodical approach wasn't a quirk, but a superpower, creating an uncontested blue ocean where true value lay. It was time to equip myself for that dive. The constant chatter of conventional networking, the forced smiles and transactional exchanges had always felt like noise to me. I understood that to truly thrive, I needed a different approach, something beyond the superficial currents. My strategy wasn't about shouting for attention, but about cultivating a specialized lure, a unique asset or deep knowledge that would, in time, undeniably attract what I needed from the metaphorical deep. While others chased visibility with flashy presentations and social media theatrics, I began my quiet, almost invisible work. I spent countless evenings delving into market analyses, dissecting complex legal precedents, and mastering new digital tools. There were no public declarations, no grand unveilings, just the methodical, precise accumulation of competence. Each new skill was a thread woven into a stronger line, each piece of data a glint on a hook designed for specific prey. It made me wonder if you've ever felt overlooked in your own abyss, only to discover a unique strength waiting to be honed there. This wasn't about seeking. It was about quietly becoming irresistible. My preparations were only just beginning. While their world continued its usual chaotic spin, mine began to tighten, to focus with a precision I hadn't known I possessed. Every hour became a strategic allocation, a quiet chipping away at the foundation of my future. The articles of incorporation for Solstice Innovations LLC were filed on October 14th, a date now etched in my memory. I followed up with the trademark application for Project Lumina just weeks later, securing the intellectual property that would become my core. Evenings were for online courses, advanced project management, digital marketing certifications, each completed module a brick in the new foundation. My investment portfolio, once a timid allocation, was rebalanced for aggressive growth, the numbers changing daily, a quiet hum on my second monitor. Securing the necessary permits for specialized equipment took nearly 6 weeks, a frustrating but essential test of patience that solidified my resolve. Yet, amidst the methodical progress, a significant pattern interrupt occurred. It was during a deep dive into publicly available filings for their new venture, Grand Vista Estates, that I found it. A minor but undeniable discrepancy in a zoning variance application from 3 years prior. A small detail, easily overlooked, but its implications were vast. A hairline crack in their seemingly solid facade. I saved the document, time-stamped, and tucked it away in a secure digital folder, a silent key for a future lock. The clock was my only ally and my fiercest competitor. But every step was forward, every document a victory, building towards a future they couldn't possibly anticipate. The email arrived precisely at 2:17 p.m. Not a roar, but a quiet hum. Past the standard 6-month waiting period and legal jargon, the official confirmation, patent use 11,456,789 had been granted. This was the first subtle glow of my bioluminescent lure in the silent depths, a tangible artifact of quiet labor, its heavy paper confirming a claim. I knew its significance would ripple. Soon, the muted buzz began. Not from me, but from those who'd always dismissed my work. I caught whispers, saw glances linger. Their casual arrogance faltered, replaced by dawning confusion. They watched as pieces clicked, belatedly realizing this wasn't just a dream, but an asset to ground they'd never explored. Their ignorance kept them comfortable. Now, my light was undeniable. The louder my new venture hummed, the more frantic the noise became from the other side. My calculated lure, designed to attract opportunity, also snagged their attention, and they didn't like what they saw. First came the thinly veiled threats disguised as concerns for my well-being. Then the thinly disguised legal challenges, a frivolous claim about a shared vendor, a vague cease and desist. They leveraged their old networks, launching a public whisper campaign, but their frantic maneuvers only confirmed what I already knew. While they scrambled to discredit me, I calmly filed each document, cross-referenced every public statement with the dated emails, and recorded call snippets I had meticulously archived. Their strategy was volume. Mine was precision. Each precise, documented response landed with the quiet finality of a gavel, rendering their public theatrics irrelevant. I wasn't just weathering the storm, I was steering right through it, armed with facts against their fiction. And in the calm after each ripple, my path forward only grew clearer. The conference room felt colder than usual, even with the midday sun streaming through the panoramic windows. Across the polished oak, Mark and Sarah's smiles were tight, expectant, clearly anticipating my resignation. But the envelope I slid across the table wasn't that. It was the fully executed contract for the acquisition of Viridian Labs, the very division they denied me, now not just secured, but absorbed under my new holding company. Their faces drained, a quiet, almost imperceptible shift, like watching the tide recede from a sandcastle. I explained calmly how their oversight had become my opportunity, detailing the 18-month strategic plan for Viridian's integration, projected to double their initial forecast. Sarah stammered something about loyalty. Mark simply stared, color rising slowly in his neck. I met his gaze, holding it steady. My loyalty, I stated, is to competence, and my boundaries are non-negotiable. The finality of my tone hung in the air, a bell tolling. I felt no triumph, only a deep satisfaction. The quiet understanding that the deepest waters hold the richest treasures. This was just the beginning of cultivating my own unique abyss, expanding into spaces they never even knew existed. If you've ever felt dismissed, what's the one thing you'd do to reclaim your power? Let me know below. The harvest, after all, had only just begun.